Hello everybody. I noticed that every once in a while we hear about a plane's crash. Have you ever took some time to think about why do planes crash? Is it the pilot's fault or is there something wrong with the plane? Let's take a recent example. Have you ever heard of Boeing 737 MAX 8's crash in 2019? To take more details and understand the story better, let's go back in time a little bit. There are two big aircraft companies, the American Boeing and the European Airbus, that have been in competition to dominate the market for many years. If one of them can offer a better plane, the other could lose a lot of money. Both had popular designs in market. Boeing's 737 and Airbus's A320, they are roughly the same size, seating up to 119 people. Both are exceptionally successful. The 737 is older and has been steadily improved over the years, but the A320, a newer, slightly larger and more comfortable aircraft, is outselling the 737, not at least in the low-cost market that Boeing had monopolized. In 2010, Airbus announced that they would update their most popular model, the A320. For this new plane, Airbus had a big update. It would have a new kind of engine. It was much larger than the previous engine. Here's Boeing's problem started. To compete with the Airbus, they had to update their engine too. But there was an issue. Their 737 airplane was closer to the ground than the Airbus's A320. So, if they wanted to update the engine with the bigger one, there will be no space for the airflow under the wings. But later, Boeing's product development head had big news. He said, "We figured out a way to get a big enough engine under the wings." The solution for this problem was to extend the engine up and well in front of the wing. However, doing so also meant that the center line of the engine's thrust now changed. Well, this is another problem. Now, when the pilots applied the power to the engine, the aircraft had a significant pitched up or rise its nose, causing a big problem. Instead of redesigning the plane to fix these problems, Boeing relied on something called Maneuvering Characteristic Augmentation System, or we can say MCAS, which is a software that automatically pushes the nose downward if the pilot flew the plane in a very high angle. But because Boeing was selling the 737 MAX as pretty much the same plane as the 737, they did not mention this new software in the training material for the pilots in 2-hour training course. This lack of responsibility and underestimating the problem in designing a better model later caused 2 crash accidents. The first crash took place in Indonesia, flight JT610, that took off with 189 people on board from Jakarta at 6:20 on Monday, 29 October 2018. It was due to arrival at Dipati Amir Airport, Pangkal, Penang, an hour later, but 13 minutes into the flight. Authorities lost contact. Bambang Sirlo, Operational Director of the Research and Rescue Agency, said, "I predicted there are no survivors based on body parts found so far." Few months after the first crash on March 10, 2019, another crash happened with the same aircraft model. The airline said 149 passengers, 8 crew members, were on flight ET302 from the Ethiopian capital to Nairobi in Kenya that crashed just after minutes into the flight. Boeing is fined nearly $20 million for installing equipment in the 737 MAX and the other aircraft before its approval, and lawsuits filed by victims' family are seeking tens of millions of dollars in damages. Moreover, Boeing is facing a class action lawsuit in U.S. courts behalf of more than 7,000 MAX pilots who argues that the company's practices put the lives of pilot, crew members, passengers at risk.